Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on Spotlight, the Chase Park Plaza welcomes 20,000 new tenants, but they hope they'll contribute. Plus, why the Post-Dispatch offered a cash prize to the first pilot to fly through the Eads Bridge arches. And then a book explains how Whitey Herzog helped the Cardinals become the best team in the National League in the 80s. But first, the story of the new mural in Alton, who this painting is a tribute to. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
Aesthetics are a big part of what makes a thriving downtown.
Residents in the Riverbend have enjoyed beautiful murals around town for years, but there is a new mural dotting the local landscape. It is called the Alton Flyaway.
I really like doing this one. It was pleasant to do. Everything about it, the town was very welcoming, which is important.
Robert Fishbone was responsible for bringing the design of the Alton Flyaway to life, although the actual rendering belonged to James Schmidt, who designed it in 2009.
My father loved modern design and abstraction, and so it's a real reflection of his great vision and his style.
James Schmidt served as head of the art department at Principia College in Elsa, Illinois. He passed away in 2013. The school now has an art gallery that bears his name. His daughter, Penny, owns the building where the Alton Flyaway soars high, some 3 stories into the air.
It's a lovely tribute to his vision and also an expression of the community, sense of the river, the uplift of being on the Mississippi Flyway, and this community of gulls that is circling around and up into the air.
She, I think, in her heart, knew that she wanted this done someday, and all the right forces came together, and she got in touch with me, and with the help of the Audubon Society and a number of donors, we made it happen.
So this Flyway mural is up to interpretation, but I believe that it's mostly gulls, terns, and some raptors. These are a lot of those white birds that you might see flying over the river. The region that we live in is just an amazing space along the Mississippi River. We're very lucky to be in this Alton region because we're really at the center of the middle of one of the biggest watersheds in the world.
It took artist and painter Robert Fishbone and his 2 assistants 5 weeks and nearly 30 gallons of paint to bring the Alton Flyaway to life.
The more planning that's done on any kind of public art project, the smoother it'll go.
The city of Alton is home to nearly 24 murals, with each one telling a unique story. Last year, a few of them earned Alton Main Street a prestigious award.
Though specifically the award that we got from the Lieutenant Governor was for the mini mural grant program that we conducted a couple of years ago that resulted in a few of the murals that we are seeing today.
This includes the Sunset Mural, the You Are Enough mural, and the Small Mural, which was previously a utility box.
And all of the business owners that are in the vicinity are always really excited because extra foot traffic always translates into more customers.
Robert Fishbone and his wife moved to St. Louis in 1973 and launched their company On the Wall Productions a year later. Fast forward 50 years, he can say he's produced some 200 murals, and you have probably seen some of his work.
We did this one at Charles Lindbergh, which was a pixelated image in 1977, and became this amazing landmark in St. Louis. It was only up for 4 years. The most recent one my daughter and I did in Clayton, Missouri. It was Clayton's first mural. It's next to a playground, and it features a very large bumblebee on a swing. And my daughter did most of the detail. It's incredible looking.
Everybody loves to see a splash of color. Murals are what gives a community its personality.
For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media.
My name is Eric Phillips. I'm the executive chef for the Chase Park Plaza in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm responsible for all the food and beverage here at the hotel. Part of our food and beverage philosophy is food is art, which brings us to our initiative to have bees. So on our roof, we've acquired 2 new hives. We have roughly 20,000 new residents at the Chase. We're hoping to help them grow and foster in our environment, as well as being able to give us some sustainability as far as a food source and be able to utilize the honey that they grow in some of our food offerings that we produce in our outlets. Helping with sustainability is a huge part of food and beverage, from a food source standpoint to the animal standpoint, and the bees are no exception to that. I think bees are very friendly in that urban environment, as long as you're just near a water source and some gardens, and I've seen people who even plant gardens in that same vicinity, and then they'll just grow the bees that way. I'm fortunate because of the location of our hotel that we're right across from Forest Park, so my bees are able to go get the best flowers that St. Louis has to offer, which in turn I hope gives us a really unique honey blend that nobody else will have, and let everybody see what Forest Park tastes like. So what goes into maintaining the hives for me is I have to make sure that I check on them 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more. A lot of it depends on the weather. I can't go up on rainy days. I don't go up on really windy days. It's not good for them. I have to keep their best health in mind when I go up. But I look for, their growth. I have to make sure that they're collecting pollen. I look for that in the hives. I make sure they're laying eggs. I look for the larvae in the covered brood. I make sure that they're starting to produce honey. But I also have to make sure that they're building out on the frames correctly. So it's a lot of moving around, encouraging them, if you will, because they get very comfortable in small packs. So opening them up and realizing they need to come back into that pack is kind of how we just kind of move the frames around, and it helps them realize there's more space in their box. It's a unique balance in nature, how they are able to keep their world alive. But I just try to go up there and make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure that I'm helping them be the best that they can be. So I hope that what we're able to do here is to be able to teach myself how to be a better bee curator, and I'm also hopeful that I instill this passion into my team members and they take it forward, and we're able to really create a really fostering, nurturing care for the environment.
HEC Media. Recognized. Celebrated. Honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. Flight has a vibrant history in St. Louis, captivating the city's imagination during the early 1900s. As a result, in 1910, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch offered a cash prize to the first pilot to fly a plane through the arches of the Eads Bridge. Public historian Andrew Wonko recounts the event.
In the early 1900s, the spectacle of flight gripped the imaginations of St. Louisans, drawing crowds in droves whenever an airplane took to the skies. Among the most audacious feats of the era was Thomas Baldwin's daring stunt of flying a biplane through the arches of the Eads Bridge, a testament to the allure of aviation and the spirit of adventure. In 1909, pilot Glenn Curtis's brief flight in Forest Park sparked awe and fascination among St. Louisans, paving the way for even more daring aerial feats. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch further heightened the excitement by offering a $2,500 prize for the first pilot to fly through one of the Eads Bridge arches, injecting an element of danger into the spectacle. Thomas Baldwin, a seasoned stunt pilot, accepted the challenge and prepared his Red Devil biplane for the historic flight. Amid great anticipation and with 200,000 spectators lining the levee, Baldwin took to the skies, facing formidable winds and the daunting task of navigating the bridge's arches. As Baldwin approached the Eads Bridge, he encountered turbulent winds that nearly caused a catastrophic drop, underscoring the perilous nature of this endeavor. But undeterred, Baldwin dove toward the bridge, threading his plane through an opening less than 50 feet high with remarkable precision. His triumphant passage through the arches elicited cheers from the crowd and earned him admiration as a modern-day daredevil of the skies. Baldwin's feat left a huge mark on St. Louis's aviation history, inspiring future generations of daredevils and aviators. Despite some subsequent crashes and mishaps, Baldwin's courage and skill continued to captivate the public's imagination, earning him widespread acclaim. The spirit of daredevilry persisted in St. Louis, exemplified by later illegal attempts to fly through the Gateway Arch, showcasing the enduring allure of aerial spectacles. Thomas Baldwin's daring flight through the arches of the Eads Bridge remains a testament to the audacity and adventure-seeking spirit of early aviators. His legacy endures as a symbol of courage and innovation in the face of formidable challenges, inspiring awe and fascination for generations to come. As St. Louis continues to evolve, the spirit of daredevilry lives on, reminding us of the enduring power of human ingenuity and the boundless possibilities of flight.
Next week on History Spotlight, brass musician, veteran, and St. Louisan William Joseph Blue.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org. Later on Spotlight, the only living female botanist responsible for naming 500 new plant species.
The 1980s, the end of the Cold War, the debut of Big Hair, MTV, Pac-Man, and the decade St. Louis Cardinal fans will remember as Whitey Ball.
Oh, that's Roll Whitey and Roger Craig. Look at that, oh my!
Under the leadership of the brash and at times brawling Whitey Herzog, the Cardinals captured 3 pennants from 1980 to 1989, won a World Series, and lost 2 others.
The winner!
1980, they were drawing just over 1 million fans. They brought in Whitey Herzog, and all of a sudden, over the 1980s, they were the best team in the National League. They had the best winning percentage in the National League for the entire decade.
Ozzie is going. The pitch is taken low and away. Davis's throw, safe.
Retired sports writer Dan O'Neill, who worked for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch for 32 years, says the 80s were pivotal for the Redbirds after coming off a lackluster record in the 1970s, which he describes as the lost decade.
Coming out of the 70s, they were kind of ripe for something fresh, something new, and certainly Whitey Herzog provided that.
O'Neill's collected 150 memorable moments in his book, Celebration, The Magic of the Cardinals in the 1980s.
So all of these episodes come with about 3 or 4 paragraph vignette or short story about the event and what made it special.
Readers can relive Herzog's strategy to run the bases and steal them.
They stole over 200 bases 7 times during Whitey's his stay here, including 314 in 1985. And that was the year I really started being around him a little bit, so it was really exciting. They ran the bases, the ball was in play. Today's baseball is sort of a little bit home run derby, and the Cardinals ran the bases, extremely aggressively. They had, Vince Coleman, they had Lonnie Smith, who came on board in the early 80s and was a catalyst for them. They had all these switch hitters, Willie McGee, Tommy Herr, Terry Pendleton, Vince Coleman. And they all stole bases, and they all ran, and they all put pressure on the other teams. And that's really was what Whitey had in mind when he came here. When he came here, the Cardinals had a lot of good hitters. They had Keith Hernandez and Gary Templeton and Ted Simmons, but they just didn't have a lot of speed. The way he would put it is they'd have to hit 4 singles to score a run. And he wanted to change that, and so he built a team that could be successful in that kind of environment. There are a lot of things that couldn't go in the book. The book would have been an encyclopedia if I'd have tried to do that. So what I just tried to do was grab the things that I really thought were the most unforgettable things. And they're not all home runs or highlights. To me, one of the things in the book is the day Mike Laga hit a ball out of the stadium. It was the only ball ever hit out of Busch Stadium. It was a foul ball.
This ball might be out of a ballpark. And it is.
And the fans gave him a standing ovation. The other thing, Victoria, that I really love about the book, and I think is a highlight, is I got a hold of all these players and asked them for a memory. And I didn't try to dictate what it should be about. They could talk about a particular event, if they wanted that was in the book, or they could just give me their own favorite memory. And that produced some pretty interesting stuff.
Remembering the legacy of Whitey Herzog. To hear more stories from Whitey's era with the St. Louis Cardinals, including how he helped Ozzie develop his signature flip, watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
So we are in the Life Science Lab at the St. Louis Science Center checking out the new update to our atrium exhibit. Our content here is focused completely on how scientists harness nature to advance healthcare. In this new update, our biggest new addition is going to be the wall mural behind us, telling the story of James Lind, a ship surgeon in 1747, who decided to run an experiment on scurvy and medical treatments for it. At the time, the scientific revolution was at its peak, and this was a chance for James Lind to put multiple accepted treatments through a very controlled trial. This is the first example of a recorded clinical trial and leads to the development of how we test safety and efficacy of medicines today. As you explore this space, you'll encounter 3 towers that talk about how we have used nature as medicine through the past, present, and future. The first one closest to us, underneath this willow tree, is all about how we've used nature as medicine in the past. Within the case, we explore different medicinal bottles and prints from our Science Center collections that showcase plant-based medicines that were used then and that we still use today. Things such as leeches, showcased by one of our favorite collections items here at the Science Center, our leech jar. We also have an apothecary-style chest that talks about the different plant-based medicines used to treat common illnesses in the past that we still use today, things such as willow bark into aspirin. The next tower, which is located underneath our DNA strand, focuses on one of the newest developments in medical research, using animal venoms to find new sources of medicine. With the advent of DNA sequencing, scientists can search for new medical compounds within the venoms of different animals without needing a single drop of that venom. For example, scientists have developed a tumor paint that latches onto brain tumor cells and not healthy ones, making brain surgeries to remove these types of cancers much more effective. That compound comes from the venom of a scorpion. The third and final tower explores medical tools and techniques. The peacock on top showcases one of the coolest developments that scientists are working right now. Biomedical sensors that mimic the structural color of things like butterflies, beetles, and birds that can be used to detect things like temperature changes or even the presence of viral particles in someone's breath. The exhibit as a whole is really important to showcase the biomedical research that happens right here in the St. Louis area, but also reminds all of us that our health as humans is related to the health of the world around us. Living things can provide humans with medicine, with new ideas for techniques and tools that advance our health care, but in turn reminds us that that interconnectedness goes both ways. We can protect those things around us while also bettering our health as well. We hope you come to the Science Center to check out the Life Science Lab Atrium update, which is included with your free admission.
For original programming and award-winning content, explore HECmedia.org. Find all of your favorite genres, including the arts and sciences. Go in-depth with the latest research. Get insight into new technologies. Learn about breakthrough discoveries. Find it all in one place. Explore HECmedia.org.
From the native and familiar to the exotic and rare, the Missouri Botanical Garden has over 27,000 plants on permanent display. But there is another part of the garden, one that is seen by very few, that holds around 8 million specimens collected from all over the world. In stark contrast to the vibrant, living beauty found in areas like the Rose Garden or the Climatron, the plants at the herbarium are frozen in time, preserved at the moment of collection for research and reference.
Yeah, this is in from the savannas in Brazil.
The herbarium receives boxes every week filled with samples that need to be documented, described, and named. This process turns a dried plant into a specimen.
It's got a label that says where and when it was collected. It has an identification, and that's not always easy because the garden works in tropical areas where we're the first exploration in. Nobody's been there before. So I have to document the species, and that includes giving them scientific descriptions for the first time. And that's when you get to name them.
Botanist Charlotte M. Taylor holds the distinction of naming more species of plants than any other woman alive.
Charlotte is a legend. There's no other way of putting it. She has a great deal of expertise in plant taxonomy, so the classification of plants, especially in the coffee family. But she's also a really massive expert in plant nomenclature, which is a complex set of rules that have been put in place to make sure that plants are named correctly and consistently across the world in an unambiguous way.
So, of course, the burning question is, how is a plant's name chosen?
We have a code of nomenclature rules. Article 29.1, the name of a species is completely arbitrary and may be anything as long as it uses the Latin alphabet. We try to put something in it to remind people of what it is, where it's from, what color the flowers are. We often name things for botanists because it's kind of an honor. A lot of people work hard and risk their lives, and this is all you get. You get a name, a species name for you, and hopefully it's a nice one. Sometimes it's an ugly one.
There's more to plants in the herbarium. There are a lot of stories of botanists, stories of places and the people and the cultures.
This is one from Ecuador. And this is it was discovered by my colleague David Neal, who has worked in Ecuador for 50 years. But he said that it's important in the indigenous communities down there that it has a sweetening effect like stevia does, and that they put it in drinks and things. And so we named it Dulcifolia, sweet leaf.
The herbarium's enormous collection, started in the 1840s, is a testament to the courage and tenacity of many botanists over the years.
I initially thought I was going to be pre-med, and then on a whim I took a field botany class and absolutely loved it. And I thought, well, there's no going back.
Heidi Schmidt's love of plants has taken her all over the world, from China to Madagascar. The harsh climates and sleeping rough, all part of the adventure.
I enjoy doing fieldwork, personally. I love it. Fieldwork has always been thought of as something like a male-dominated field because you need to be physically strong. Traditionally, women have not been thought as capable as men. And it's not just being physically strong, it's having other attributes too, the ability to recognize plants in the field, the ability to work well with others because you're in a field situation where not everyone is maybe from the same country. I have seen improvement. That's not to say that I'd like to see more.
Carmen Polisi's work has taken her to almost every country in Southeast Asia, collecting and teaching others the skill of plant identification.
It is actually less glamorous than it sounds. I usually go to remote places in forests and collect plants and press them, dry them, and then bring them back to my institution and to the local herbaria for study by specialists, including myself.
Just for the record, we do not work alone in any country. We work in collaboration with people in country, and our overall goal is capacitation so that people in those countries can take over doing this.
Charlotte spent years in the field herself, mostly in South America, before the garden decided to use her talents in a different way.
They changed my job to something I find super cool. I write reference books. I'm the person that writes the book that you need to use to identify plants and to do your ecological work. And about half of what I do is collect known information, and half of it is I figure out the things no one knows.
Charlotte works on Rubiaceae, or the coffee family. It's one of the largest in the plant world and has given her plenty of puzzles to solve.
One group of plants in my group is poisonous. They grow where the cattle are in Brazil and Colombia and Venezuela. And the cattle are not from South America, so they don't know what's good and what's bad. So they eat these plants, and there's a chemical in there, monofluoroacetate, that is as poisonous as cyanide. And so the cattle eat the plant and they fall over dead. Literally, there are pictures of them like lying there. And there are a lot of similar plants, so I went in to try to help identify. And my colleague from the Department of Agriculture, he was working with the Brazilians. And he took samples of this looking for poison, and we build sequentially on the work we do. So he put this label on saying who sampled it for chemicals when. So he analyzed our specimens. So we had documentation of what species grow where. I had the identifications on them, and he knows which ones are poisonous. To get from the one little level of data I take to a bigger picture of life and a bigger hypothesis and put more information together, it takes people who know different parts.
Heidi Schmidt added to her own taxonomy and systematics background and completed training in conservation assessment, allowing her and Charlotte to collaborate on work around the specimens collected in Madagascar.
And this is something that's very useful to sort of give people a broad idea of the risk of extinction for certain species. And so Charlotte was very interested in being able to include this information with all these new species that she's been describing. Madagascar is a very unique opportunity to work on a flora that's not very well documented, that is incredibly unique with almost 90% endemic plants to the island. It's an island that needs study now, and there's just so much baseline data we just don't have.
The immense amount of baseline data housed in the herbarium is an important form of record keeping, providing a view not just into a plant's past, but also into our planet's future.
Through historical collection, we have snapshots of what a given area would have been 200 years ago, 100 years ago, and then 50, 20, 10, 5 years ago. And monitoring the plant diversity also allows us to understand where we are going, how fast, and what direction, because they are the best indicators of environment or environmental change.
Though the work that Charlotte, Heidi, and Carmen are doing is important, they also put a lot of energy into encouraging and including those who historically have been overlooked or undervalued.
Science has always been a white male-dominated environment, and that means that there's a very restricted niche. I think that the solution to the problem is diversity.
I'm very much encouraged by the collaboration and team aspect that we have here at the garden. You want people to bring new ideas, and not only new ideas, but you want people to challenge you.
That's where you get originality, and that's where you get innovation.
We're all smarter together. People come in with the most surprising ideas because they lived a different life.
Next week, the nation's longest-running Memorial Day parade happens closer to home than you might think. Plus, how a group of nurses helped save the healthcare system from collapse during World War II. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.